Hey guys, I'm back, and I'd like to talk about perspective in this video. And I do a lot of thinking about perspective. I think it's immensely valuable, at least to think about perspective, if not to apply it to your life. Um, but in this video, I want to talk about something that I have titled Crimes of Perspective. And what I mean by this is when a perspective is so narrow or so skewed that it becomes insulting or obscene, almost in a way, when you view it in the context of a much more realistic, in my point of view, valuable perspective. And what I mean by this, uh, to take an example, would be like when somebody says, usually religious, when somebody says, the universe is made for us. Or when they say things like, the universe doesn't exist outside of our consciousnesses, as if we are this sort of key to the universe being in existence, that that without us the universe would be nothing. Like we are the value of the entire universe. And the reason I call this a crime is because when I view my place in the universe, um, I see Earth, and Earth is trillions and trillions and trillions of tons of dirt and water, and on that Earth, there's a biosphere where all life is, and that is a thin coating that covers the planet and goes a little bit, a couple miles down into the water. And that's Earth. The one oasis that we know of life in the universe. Now, to put it into perspective, my hero, Carl Sagan, he pointed out that the Earth is just a pale blue dot. And I know many people who I talk to will be very familiar with Carl Sagan and the cosmos and all of his work. But the point that Carl Sagan stressed was that from far away, or even not that far away, just from a close distance, even, we are so little. Even in the context of our solar system, we're little. As Bill Nye put it, compared to the sun, we are a speck. And then the sun compared to the solar system is a speck. And the solar system compared to the galaxy is a speck. And the galaxy compared to a cluster of galaxies is a speck. And a cluster of galaxies, a cluster of galaxies in comparison to the universe is less than a speck. And so, to put things into a more realistic perspective, I find it personally, I find it obscene that someone would say that we are the center of the universe, that it was made for us, that it couldn't be without us, that we are so important, that we are the function of the universe to be. To me, that's like an ant being on planet Earth and marveling at how the entire Earth was made for the ant. Except it's worse than that. It's not just that the ant says that the whole Earth is for it. It's saying that the whole galaxy is for it, and that the whole universe is for it, really, because we're pretty close to an ant when it comes down to comparing sizes with the universe. But it seems like the most ridiculous thing to me. And then when people say, they say to look at God's miracles, whichever religion, I'm just going to work with Christianity because I'm more familiar with it. But when people talk about miracles and God's wrath, and when God displays his almighty power and things like this, miracles, you couldn't name a miracle written in any holy text or anything like that which would impress me, keeping in mind the scale and the perspective of the universe. Because there's nothing in those books that has anything to do with anything other than the Earth or our immediate vicinity in space, because all those holy books didn't even know about our vicinity in space. So anything that they work with is going to be the Earth, the sky, the heavens, which is to them was just like a 2D surface on which there were these shiny things, because they had no concept of the universe as we do now. And so when I hear about Jesus turning water into wine, walking on water, feeding 5,000 people with a couple fish and some loaves of bread, those, if there was a human who was supposed to be some sort of demigod, maybe that might be somewhat indicative of that, but that would not impress me on the scale of a god, because those things are only impressive in a very human scale. There's nothing there's nothing grand about it. It's just it's so below anything I would expect from a god who created the entire universe. Especially a god that made it all for us. And it's so out of place, because when religious people talk about these miracles, they talk about them like they're the greatest thing ever. And the same thing comes when we talk about wrath, like the wrath of God. God was so angry he made a storm, or he made an earthquake, or he made a volcano. These things would have impressed people 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. But now we have a perspective that they can never have had. We have the perspective of our Earth is one planet of billions of planets in our galaxy, of billions of galaxies in who knows how many universes there are. And so when I hear someone talk about, well, my God is showing his anger through the storm, and it's an incredibly huge storm, and it actually is a lot of power. Or there's a volcano, and it's gods are angry and they're unleashing their fury. Well, I look up in the sky and I say, okay, your God is making a storm or an earthquake or a volcano. My God redraws the fabric of space. I mean, if we're going to compare the powers of our gods, my God makes elements through the synthesis of elements inside stars. The actions of the things in the universe are so far beyond anything in scale or in meaning or in perspective that happens on Earth that it's not even a contest. It's like your God creates a storm, my God creates an entire nebula, hundreds of thousands of light years across. It's not even in the same category. It's like child's play, but worse compared to what the universe has made out there. And so, when I see people astounded at these fake miracles, these like little tricks that are supposed to have been done, it's saddening that they can't just look up in the sky and realize that, okay, well, my God could have, orchestrated the entire creation of the universe for 14 billion years, or he could make a storm. And even if they're willing to accept that their God had some sort of role in the creation of the universe or in the formation of stars and galaxies, they should at least give him credit there, or it credit there, instead of marveling at an earthquake or some sort of message being sent there. To me that seems like counterintuitive to the process of trying to create awe or trying to show where God might be in the universe. God is not in storms. God is not in volcanoes. God is not even in black holes. God is so far. I mean, if God exists, he's so far beyond any of that. He's probably beyond our universe. We're trying so hard, so desperately to include ourselves in some sort of importance. and ultimately we fail so badly. And so when I hear people say that the universe is made for us, it's I don't even know what to say. I'm literally rendered speechless because it's it's one of the silliest things I think you could ever say. Um, and this goes along with God's actions as well. Um, when people consider God's actions, uh, such as mercy or love or justice, um, the attributes of God, they even Christians have trouble conceptualizing how their God might be different. I don't have any problem with this at all, but apparently Christians have a very big problem with imagining the full possibilities of a God. And what I mean by this is, um, for example, if you say, well, okay, Jesus died on the cross. Okay, let's just propose that. Um, Jesus died on the cross for us. Okay, why did he die on the cross? Well, God had to sacrifice himself to himself and sort of rectify the sin of Adam by making himself suffer because only he, uh, with the power of a God, could fix the problem that Adam and Eve set into motion. Okay. But then when you ask, okay, why didn't he just forgive everyone anyways? Why didn't he just forgive Adam? He is all forgiving. He is all loving. He could certainly have done that. And then the response that I get, and the response that I hear from other atheists asking Christians this question, is that God couldn't have, not quite that God couldn't have done it a different way, but that it had to be that way. As if to say that the only way that it could have been was that way. And to me, that is the same thing as saying that the universe was made for us. Really? I mean, if there is a God that created the entirety of the universe, you don't think he could come up with a better situation to forgive people than just to forgive them? Or just to murder his own son, who was himself, to himself as a sacrifice? Like, it's absurd to me that Christians will defend that the only way it had to be was if Jesus killed himself so that he could be a sacrifice to himself to save humanity. Really? God couldn't come up with anything less messy than that? I could come up with something less messy than that. I would have just forgiven them if I had the power. Boom, forgiven. But for some reason, when Christians think about this, they can't conceptualize the full scale of possibilities that God would have if he existed and the scenario is correct. And so I don't really I don't understand how this happens, how people can be so sort of narrow-minded in their analysis of things as powerful and as wide-ranging as the universe and of God, if there is a God who's all-powerful. It blows my mind, and this is true even for atheists as well. Is that they don't really understand what it means when it's said that the entire universe is actually out there. Look at all this space. Look how insignificant you are, and no matter how hard you try and fight the fact that you're insignificant doesn't even cover. It doesn't even get half the way there to describing our place in the universe. I don't think we have words for it because we've never had to compare something so large to us, which is so small. It's smaller than infinitesimal. And so what I would call a crime of perception is, talking about God's power being a storm, or saying that the universe is made for us, or that God's wrath is somehow terrible, even though it's the only scale it has is on one part of one planet in one universe. It's absurd. And so this is just something that's bugging me for a while, and I just wanted to talk about it because I think if more people thought about real perspectives, worthwhile perspectives, if there are any, those perspectives must lie in the consideration of the entirety of the universe. And so I think it's about time we stopped looking at ourselves as if we were the center of the universe and start seeing things as they actually are, and as observations have shown us that the universe actually operates. Yeah.